Somewhere in the world, right now, a McDonald's is opening its doors every 14 hours. Not every week, not every day. Every 14 hours. By the time you finish watching this documentary, 3 new McDonald's locations will exist that didn't exist when you hit play. Here's something that will change the way you see this company forever. McDonald's isn't really in the burger business. It's one of the largest real estate empires on planet Earth, and it's been hiding in plain sight, wrapped in a cheeseburger, for almost 70 years. So how does a company that sells $2 fries generate more wealth than most countries? Stay with me, because once you see how this machine actually works, you'll never look at a Happy Meal the same way again. You've probably eaten there. Maybe this week. Maybe today. You know the menu. You know the smell of the fries before you even walk in. But here's what almost nobody realizes. The company that sells you that burger barely makes any money from the burger itself. The real business is happening underneath your feet, literally, in the ground the restaurant sits on. By the end of this video, you'll understand why McDonald's has survived recessions, pandemics, health crusades, and 100 failed copycats, while quietly becoming one of the most profitable business models ever designed. This is the story of how a milkshake machine salesman turned a hamburger stand into a financial empire worth over $200 billion. And the twist? He barely cared about the food at all. Let's talk scale for a second. Real scale. McDonald's operates in more than 100 countries, over 40,000 locations. That's more outposts than most global armies. More locations than Starbucks and Subway combined operate in some regions. Every single day, McDonald's serves roughly 70 million customers. 70 million. That's larger than the entire population of France, walking through those doors every single day somewhere on Earth. And here's the part that breaks people's brains. McDonald's isn't even the one running most of these restaurants. More than 90% of McDonald's locations are owned and operated by independent franchisees, regular business people who signed a contract, took a risk, and now flip burgers under a golden arch that isn't even theirs. So, if McDonald's isn't running the restaurants, what exactly is McDonald's doing all day? That question is about to change everything you think you know about this company. Ask anyone how McDonald's makes money, and you'll get the same answer every time. They sell burgers, millions of them. It makes sense on the surface. The menu is the front door. The smell, the taste, the Big Mac, that's the experience people remember. But that's exactly why almost nobody sees the real machine underneath. Because the food isn't the profit engine. The food is the bait. It's the thing that gets a franchisee to sign a contract, gets a customer to walk through the door, and gets a neighborhood to grow up around a single intersection. But here's what almost nobody realizes. The actual money, the billions, comes from something far less delicious and far more brilliant. To understand it, we have to go back. Back to a hot summer day in San Bernardino, California, in 1954, when a 52-year-old salesman walked into a restaurant that would change his life. His name was Ray Kroc, and by most measures, his life had been a series of near misses. He sold paper cups. He sold real estate during the Great Depression and lost almost everything. By his 50s, he was selling milkshake mixing machines, a machine called the multi-mixer, traveling from diner to diner, hoping someone would buy 5. Then one day, an order came in for 8 machines, at once. That was strange. Nobody ordered 8 multi-mixers. So Kroc got curious, and curiosity is where every great story begins. He drove out to San Bernardino to see the restaurant that needed 8 milkshake machines running at full speed. What he found stopped him in his tracks. 2 brothers, Richard and Maurice McDonald, had built something nobody had ever seen before. A restaurant with no waiters, no plates, no cutlery, just speed. They called it the speedy service system. Burgers made in advance, a limited menu, workers who each did one repetitive task over and over, like a factory line. Customers got their food in 30 seconds. In an era when eating out meant waiting 20 minutes for a car hop, this felt like magic. Ray Kroc stood in that parking lot and watched people line up in the California heat just to get a burger faster than anywhere else on Earth. And in that moment, he didn't see a restaurant. He saw an empire. But here's what makes this moment so strange if you really sit with it. Kroc wasn't a chef. He wasn't a food guy at all. He'd spent 30 years failing to sell things that mostly didn't work out. By 1954, most men his age were thinking about retirement, not reinvention. Instead, he saw a machine, a repeatable, scalable process, and something in him refused to let it go. Kroc convinced the McDonald brothers to let him franchise their system nationwide. He believed, correctly, that this wasn't just a good burger stand, it was a repeatable formula. But here's where the story takes its first real twist. The brothers were cautious. They didn't want to grow too fast, and they structured the deal in a way that gave Kroc very little of the actual profit from each franchise sale. Kroc was building an empire brick by brick, restaurant by restaurant, and barely making any money doing it. For years he was cash poor, stressed, and watching his dream nearly collapse under the weight of a bad contract. This is where everything changes. Because in 1956, a financial advisor named Harry Sonneborn walked into Kroc's office with an idea so simple and so strange that it would eventually make McDonald's one of the richest companies on the planet. Sonneborn looked at the numbers and said something like this: "You're not really in the food business, you're in the real estate business." And that sentence right there, that's the secret at the center of everything. Here's the strategy Sonneborn designed, and it's almost too clever to believe. Instead of just selling a franchise license and collecting a small royalty, which was the standard model at the time, McDonald's would buy or lease the land underneath every new restaurant. Then, McDonald's would turn around and lease that same land to the franchisee at a markup. Think about what that means. The franchisee builds the restaurant. The franchisee hires the staff. The franchisee cooks the food, cleans the floors, deals with the 3 a.m. ice cream machine malfunction. But McDonald's owns the ground they're standing on. Every single month, before a franchisee earns a single dollar of profit, they're already paying McDonald's rent, often based on a percentage of their total sales, not just a flat fee. So the harder a franchisee works, the more sales they generate, the more rent they owe. McDonald's built a business where success and failure both funnel money back to headquarters. That's not a restaurant company. That's a landlord wearing a hamburger costume. Let's break down exactly where McDonald's billions come from, piece by piece. First, rent, the single largest revenue stream. McDonald's owns or leases the land and buildings for the vast majority of its franchised restaurants and collects monthly rent from franchisees, frequently tied to a percentage of their sales. Second, royalties. On top of rent, franchisees pay an ongoing royalty fee, typically around 4 to 5% of gross sales, just for the right to use the McDonald's name, systems, and recipes. Third, franchise fees. When someone buys into the McDonald's system, they pay a substantial upfront fee, often well into 6 figures, just to open the door. Fourth, company-operated restaurants. A smaller slice, roughly 5 to 7% of locations, are run directly by McDonald's corporate, generating restaurant-level profit the traditional way. Fifth, real estate appreciation. Here's the one almost nobody talks about. McDonald's has been quietly acquiring prime commercial real estate, busy intersections, growing suburbs, high-traffic corners, for over half a century. Land the company bought decades ago for a few $1,000s now sits in some of the most valuable commercial corridors in the world. Add it all together, and you get a business where the restaurant itself is almost a delivery mechanism for something much bigger. A global property portfolio disguised as a fast food chain. But here's the thing, that's still only the beginning. While everyone was arguing about whether the Big Mac or the Whopper was better, McDonald's was quietly building an entirely new business most customers never even noticed. The McDonald's app isn't just for convenience, it's a data engine. Every order, every coupon scan, every buy one, get one free tap feeds an algorithm that tracks what you order, when you order it, and how a $2 discount can be engineered to make you spend $6 more. Loyalty programs aren't generosity, they're behavioral science dressed up as free fries. Then there's McCafe, coffee and espresso drinks that carry dramatically higher profit margins than a hamburger ever could, quietly turning McDonald's into one of the largest coffee retailers on earth, competing directly with Starbucks without most people realizing it. Breakfast, once considered a side hustle, became so profitable that McDonald's fought internally for years over whether to serve it all day, because breakfast items carry some of the highest margins on the entire menu. McDelivery and third-party delivery apps opened up an entirely new customer base. People who never would have driven to a McDonald's, now ordering from their couch, paying a delivery premium on top of the food cost. And here's a detail that sounds almost unbelievable. McDonald's has, at various points, generated significant income from its own investment activities and financial arrangements tied to its massive real estate holdings, treating its property portfolio less like restaurant infrastructure and more like an investment fund. This is a company that figured out how to monetize your coffee order, your convenience, your loyalty points, and the ground beneath your feet, all at the same time. And that's still not the full picture. Of course, an empire this size doesn't run for free. Food and packaging costs eat up a significant chunk of every dollar at the restaurant level. Beef, potatoes, buns, oil, all sourced through one of the most tightly controlled supply chains in the world. Labor is another massive expense. Millions of workers globally, at a time when wages and staffing pressures have become one of the industry's biggest headaches. Construction and real estate development costs are enormous. Opening a new location can cost well over $1 million once you factor in land, building, and equipment. Then there's marketing. McDonald's spends over $1 billion a year globally on advertising, because staying in your head, staying in your craving, is worth more to them than almost anything else they could buy. Add in technology investment, digital kiosks, app development, AI-powered drive-through systems, and you start to see why this business, despite its scale, still has to run with brutal efficiency. But here's the twist that makes this whole system so powerful. Most of these costs? They're not McDonald's problem. They belong to the franchisee. This is the part of the model that most people never fully connect, and it's genuinely brilliant. McDonald's corporate doesn't want to run 40,000 restaurants. Running a restaurant is exhausting, thin-margin work, dealing with staffing, spoilage, local regulations, broken equipment every single day. Instead, McDonald's found a way to keep almost all of the upside while pushing almost all of the operational risk onto someone else. The franchisee takes on the labor headaches, the food cost fluctuations, the 2 a.m. emergency repairs, the local competition, the economic downturns in their specific town. McDonald's corporate, meanwhile, collects rent and royalties whether that specific location has a good month or a rough one, as long as the doors stay open and sales keep flowing. It's why McDonald's operating margins have historically dwarfed those of most traditional restaurant chains. A typical restaurant business might operate on razor-thin single-digit margins. McDonald's, largely because of this real estate and royalty structure, has operated with margins closer to what you'd expect from a technology or real estate company, not a burger stand. This is where everything clicks into place. McDonald's isn't just a franchise business. It's a machine engineered to extract stable, recurring, almost guaranteed income, while someone else absorbs the chaos of actually running the restaurant. Now let's step inside your brain for a second, because McDonald's has been engineering it for decades. That red and yellow color scheme on every sign, every cup, every wrapper, it's not random. Red triggers urgency and appetite. Yellow triggers happiness and grabs attention faster than almost any other color the human eye processes. The golden arches themselves were designed to be visible from a moving car, from hundreds of feet away, because the goal was never to make you walk in. The goal was to make the decision before you even realized you were making one. Then there's the Happy Meal, arguably one of the most brilliant psychological products ever created. It's not just food, it's a toy, wrapped in a craving, marketed directly to children who then beg their parents to make the decision for them. McDonald's didn't just build restaurants near families, it built a habit loop into childhood itself, so that the smell of fries becomes tied to birthday parties, road trips, and comfort, long before a person is even old enough to choose where to eat. Store layouts are engineered for speed and flow. From the moment you walk in to the moment you're back in your car, every second is optimized. Even pricing is psychological. Combo meals aren't really about convenience. They're about making you spend more while feeling like you're saving money. This isn't an accident. This is behavioral science, refined over 7 decades, one drive-through at a time. And there's one more layer to this that's almost invisible if you're not looking for it. Consistency itself is a psychological weapon. Human beings crave certainty. In a world full of unpredictable choices, McDonald's offers something rare. You already know exactly what you're going to get, no matter which country, which city, which decade. That predictability lowers your mental effort to almost zero. You don't have to think, you just pull in. That's not convenience by accident. That's convenience by design, engineered to remove hesitation from a decision that used to take real thought. Location strategy at McDonald's isn't guesswork. It's closer to a science. For decades, the company has used detailed traffic pattern analysis, demographic data, and growth projections to pick locations years before an area becomes valuable, buying land in growing suburbs before anyone else recognizes the potential. By the time competitors show up, McDonald's is already sitting on the best corner in town, sometimes literally owning the intersection itself. Then there's standardization, the invisible backbone of the entire operation. A Big Mac in Tokyo tastes remarkably close to a Big Mac in Toronto. That consistency isn't an accident. It's the result of one of the most rigorously controlled supply chains in the world, ensuring the experience feels identical no matter where you are on Earth. Automation is the next frontier. Self-order kiosks, AI-assisted drive-through systems, and kitchen automation are steadily reducing labor dependency and increasing speed, which directly protects those margins we talked about earlier. And digital ordering has quietly become one of the most powerful tools in the entire business, not just for convenience, but because a customer using the app spends more per visit, on average, than a customer paying with cash at the counter. Every strategy, every decision, points back to the same core obsession: predictable, scalable, recurring revenue, engineered into every single square foot of the business. But no empire is invincible, and McDonald's has real, serious risks staring it down. Health-conscious consumer trends have been building for years. More people demanding fresh, natural, lower-calorie options, forcing McDonald's to constantly adapt a menu built on speed and cost efficiency rather than nutrition. Inflation has hit hard. Beef prices, packaging costs, and wages have all climbed, squeezing franchisee margins and occasionally sparking public backlash over rising menu prices. Labor shortages and wage pressure have forced faster investment in automation, but also raised questions about the future of millions of entry-level jobs tied to the brand. Regulatory pressure is intensifying globally, from labor law disputes to environmental packaging requirements to franchise relationship lawsuits in multiple countries. And then there's the newest threat: changing consumer behavior. A generation raised on food delivery apps, healthier, fast, casual competitors, and social media food trends doesn't have the same brand loyalty their parents did. McDonald's has survived recessions, pandemics, and decades of criticism. But surviving the next 20 years may require reinventing the very model that made it a giant in the first place. To understand what this model actually feels like on the ground, consider a typical single-restaurant McDonald's franchisee. Opening one location can require an initial investment well over $1 million once construction, equipment, and fees are factored in, a number that alone eliminates most small business owners from ever qualifying. Annual sales at an average US location run into the millions of dollars. Impressive on paper, but after paying rent to McDonald's corporate, royalties, food costs, staff wages, and operational expenses, the franchisee's actual take-home profit margin is often a fraction of that impressive top-line number. Many successful franchisees don't get rich off one location. They get rich by reinvesting profits into owning multiple locations, sometimes dozens, turning themselves into small regional empires, layered inside McDonald's larger empire. It's a system where the real financial upside doesn't come from working harder at one restaurant. It comes from scaling, from becoming, in a small way, exactly what McDonald's corporate became decades ago: an owner of systems, not just a single storefront. The lesson embedded in every successful franchisee's story is the same lesson McDonald's itself learned in 1956. Ownership beats labor, every single time. So where does this empire go from here? Automation is accelerating. Test locations around the world are experimenting with AI-powered drive-through voice ordering, automated kitchen equipment, and predictive inventory systems that reduce waste before it happens. Delivery and digital ordering will likely keep growing as a share of total sales, pushing McDonald's further into becoming a technology-driven logistics company as much as a restaurant brand. Sustainability pressure is reshaping packaging, sourcing, and energy use across thousands of locations, a slow but necessary evolution for a company this size. And global expansion isn't finished. Emerging markets across Asia and Africa still represent enormous untapped growth. New intersections, new suburbs, new land waiting to be claimed before competitors even arrive. The burger might look the same in 20 years, but the machine behind it will look almost nothing like what Ray Kroc built in 1955. Here's what every entrepreneur, every investor, every curious mind should take from this story. The biggest businesses in the world rarely make their money the way you assume they do. Amazon isn't just an online store. Much of its real profit engine is cloud computing infrastructure most customers never think about. Apple isn't just a phone company. A massive share of its long-term profit comes from services, subscriptions, and an ecosystem designed to keep you locked in. And McDonald's isn't a burger company. It's a real estate and licensing empire that figured out how to make food the emotional hook, while building its actual fortune on land, contracts, and recurring payments happening quietly in the background. The pattern is always the same. Find the product people can see, and build the real business in the parts they can't. So let's return to where we started. Every 14 hours, a new McDonald's opens somewhere on Earth. But now you understand what that really means. It's not just a new place to buy a burger. It's a new piece of real estate, quietly added to one of the largest property portfolios on the planet. A new stream of guaranteed rent. A new royalty contract. A new data point in a global behavioral algorithm refined over 70 years. McDonald's built the greatest disguise in modern business history, hiding a real estate and licensing empire inside a cheeseburger wrapper, so effectively that most of the world never even noticed. That's the twist. That's the reveal. The golden arches were never really about the food. They were about owning the ground the world stands on. One intersection, one franchisee, one rent check at a time. Ray Kroc used to say something that sounded almost like a joke at the time, but turned out to be the entire blueprint for one of the most powerful companies ever built. He said the essential ingredient wasn't ketchup, it wasn't beef, it wasn't even the burger. It was land. A milkshake machine salesman looked at a small burger stand in the California desert and saw something nobody else could see. Not a meal, but a system. Not a product, but a position. Not a restaurant, but real estate with a really, really good marketing plan attached to it. And that single shift in perspective built an empire that now spans over 100 countries, feeds tens of millions of people every single day, and generates tens of billions of dollars a year, most of it coming from places most customers will never think to look. You will probably eat at a McDonald's again sometime soon, and when you do, take 1 second before you take your first bite to really look around. Because you're not just standing in a restaurant, you're standing inside one of the most quietly brilliant financial machines ever built. But here's the question that should really keep you up tonight. If McDonald's, a company you thought you fully understood, was secretly built on a completely different business model than the one you assumed, what other companies are doing the exact same thing, right now, hiding in plain sight? So tell me, what company should we uncover next? The one that looks like a tech company, but might really be an advertising machine. The one that looks like a coffee shop, but might really be a real estate play, just like this one. Drop it in the comments. There's a good chance we're already researching it. The biggest businesses in the world don't just sell you a product. They build a system that keeps making money while the world is busy looking somewhere else. McDonald's didn't sell you a burger. It sold you a story. So good, so simple, so delicious, that almost nobody ever thought to ask what was really happening underneath.